Hi, everybody. This is apparently, I guess I'll just do it. This is episode 29 of Stat Check Jack Champster because we have Jack the Champ Harpstar on tonight as our guest, who is going to talk a little bit about some things that I'm sure you all heard about, like an LVO and an ITC and some stuff like that. I'm joined today, of course, by Jeremy and Anthony, who are also going to talk about their LVO and their ITC experiences. And then we're going to talk maybe the minorest amount of stats. I don't know, maybe not. And then we'll probably just talk about a little bit about our LVO experiences. We'll talk about Arcs of Omen. And that'll kind of be it. I guess talking about weekends is kind of pointless. So we might as well just kind of go like straight into nonsense, which is just how was everybody's LVO, starting with Jeremy.
Oh, I mean,
you went way out of order.
I know we're gonna do Jack last because I feel like Jack will have the most to say.
Oh, mine's fine, you know.
Yeah, he had an average weekend.
He did.
My LVO was pretty good. Anyone who didn't pay attention to last week's episode, I think we talked about it, maybe the week before. I brought Leagues of Votan, double fort, triple Zerk, double bikes, and then battalion for everything else, along with the 3 support characters. I had a pretty good weekend. I actually won my first 4 games and then dropped my last game by 1 point, which was a little disheartening, but also didn't feel terrible. Thanks, Anthony. For anyone listening, Anthony just changed his name to Anthony Nerdstradamus Vanilla, which he definitely is right now. And then game 6, I ended up on the industrial table against Chaos Knights going second, which was a mood. But yeah, overall, like my opponents were all fantastic people. They were all super friendly. Had an amazing bonding moment actually with my sixth opponent because he was going for best in faction Chaos Knights using a model that one of his late friends had gifted to him before he passed. So the whole thing was just, even though I lost, I felt very good having lost. And yeah, overall, just great. It was great meeting everyone. I finally got to meet. Yeah, I did it the right way. I finally got to meet Nathan and Cliff in person. They were both fantastic people. Cliff is even more of a presence in person than he is on camera.
Cliff's a big boy.
And of course, I got to see Anthony and Jack and Innes and all of them again. So that was lovely. Yeah, it was just a great weekend of games and people. We'll talk a little bit later about the terrain, but I did feel that the terrain could use some improvement.
Yeah, maybe a little.
And then to answer the question in chat, because I'm sure it's going to come up at least a couple more times, Innes is taking a few days off because of travel, generically speaking. Going across the ocean tends to mess with your internal clock. So Innes is not available tonight due to travel side effects, effectively. But he'll be on next week, and we'll have some other stuff to talk about that he's prepping for future episodes that will be amazing. Anthony, do you want to talk about your LVO experience before we talk about more Votan stuff?
I have lots to say. Do you want to just round off the dwarves before I...
Sure. So I also took Votan. The only difference between me and Jeremy's list is that one of my units decided to take a comms array for just in case I got to snipe a Hive Tyrant with a comms array. I don't know.
Very specific
Did
tech.
you get to snipe a Hive Tyrant with the comms array?
I did not, although the funniest... there were 2 really funny moments that I want to share during the event. There was one where I played against a Tyrann's opponent that I did end up winning. I got the best record, by the way, of 3-2-1. The only other record that matters aside from 6-0, apparently, is that one. That's what I've been told repeatedly. I had amazing opponents for all my rounds. Shaw is in chat and said that he had a great time playing me, which was amazing because I also had a great time playing you. In my game against Tyranids, a Hive Tyrant charged 2 forts. One was on 3 wounds because he managed to clear out the stuff in front of it. He used the trampling charge stratagem, did 3 mortal wounds to that fort, and it blew up, literally. And it killed my Call and my Grimnir and 5 warriors.
How hard do they explode? Are they D6?
D6 mortal wounds, 6 inches. Did 3 mortal wounds to the Hive Tyrant and then did like 4 mortal wounds to the other fort. And so up until that point, I hadn't really lost a lot, but I looked down and there's just this giant hole in my back lines.
Yeah.
The Hive Tyrant then failed to kill the other fort in melee combat, which was kind of nice.
That thing can fail to kill stuff?
Yeah.
Not my experience.
I've never seen that happen personally. Did it have Reaper?
It did. It had Reaper
Only
of
3 mortal
Rags.
wounds now.
Incredible. Incredible.
So it did all 3 mortal wounds, but it couldn't get through like the rest of it. It basically, the fort passed all of its invulnerable saves, so it wasn't like a huge deal. And I negated one with the Forge Master, who lost most of his little people, but not all of them, which was kind of nice. The fort then proceeded to beam that Hive Tyrant right off the table in the next turn, which was kind of funny and kind of not at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was great. The other one was against Chaos Knights, where 5 Zerks stood up to everything in the army shooting at them, except for like the last knight who charged them in combat. But after the shooting, there was still one Berserk holding his concussion ball to the sky, like yelling at the top of his lungs. Yep, before getting charged and just obliterated by a knight, essentially, which was fine. But he had done his job. I had never seen somebody put 5 flamers and then like 4 armigers into a unit of 5 Zerks and watch them come out the other side. It was amazing. Otherwise, I played into Blood Angels because I was 2-0-1 at the end of day 1. Played Blood Angels in the first part of day 2, and lost to a player who eventually made it to the shadow round, I believe. I can't remember if Zach
missed the shadow round because he was 5-0.
Oh, Zach was this close.
He was an amazing opponent. I learned a lot playing against him, and then I played. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. Love
I met him for the first time this weekend. He was super cool. We talked a whole bunch.
Yeah, we actually went to the same high school.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
World.
I was like, what? It's a really small high school, too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really small boarding high school out in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
That's wild.
That's so weird.
So I played him and I learned a lot.
You know Carl Vela? He worked there.
Oh, for real?
For real, yeah. And that's how we all know that was the thing. That's because Carl had a place called Westtown. Carl had a Westtown sticker on the back of his car, and was wearing a Westtown like hoodie at one point. So we chatted about that, and then Kerstetter and Carl chatted about it, and then Zach and I were like, "Hey!" And he's like 8 years older than me, but still,
right.
That's such a funny small world moment, especially since you were both playing Blood Angels at the event.
It's also it was also a Quaker boarding school, so the whole Blood Angels sprinting at you, murdering everybody was a little out of.
There's a little bit of irony, just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Playing him was great. I then played a Custodes player who unfortunately couldn't hurt me as much as he thought he could on Necron terrain, and so I picked up like 2/3 of his army in the clapback, and then I played against a Drew. I was so tired in the 6th game against Drukari that I forgot how to play and got out objective despite picking up basically the person's whole army except for Drazar and some Incubi. Ouch. That was bad. But it was a great game, and it was against one of Zach's teammates
Cool.
from Denver, who is also a nice guy, who opened it up with, "You think Zach was nice? I'm actually the nicest person on my team." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But it was great. We can talk about terrain later, but I think all the games were awesome. Getting to see Anthony again and then meeting everybody in person was awesome. I missed everybody the next day when I was like, man, I can't just wake up, play 40K, and then go chat with all of my friends who play 40K. But such is life.
Yeah, I usually call that the end of the post-tournament depression, where you just wake up and realize that you're no longer surrounded by everyone that you love and care about. Aside from, you got your family. But
I was gonna say, Jeremy, hold on and make sure you include your wife.
Don't worry, I was thinking about it.
Okay,
she's not like 10 feet away from me.
Just watching you, just on the other side. Imagine her behind the camera, just.
Yeah, blink twice if you're in trouble, Jeremy.
Otherwise, I also brought home just a bunch of guard nonsense that was released at the event because FLG had a 22.5% discount on their stuff coming out of the vendor hall.
Specifically not a 25%, as Cliff found out very angrily.
Specifically not a 25% discount.
Why is there a reason why it's 22.5 or just
Because it's 10% off of their normal 15% off price.
Yeah. So they're not additive, guys.
Yes. They advertised it as 25% off when you walked in, and then you noticed the number didn't quite match what you expected it to be.
Yeah,
No, it was
I
compounding.
thought it said
interest.
something like that,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess
It
not.
said 25.
But of course, Cliff, the ultimate numbers man, noticed that something was off with the Archeron model that he was buying.
Yep. He bought that Archeon and he paused for a moment. He was like, the math doesn't add up. And he asked the person, and they were like, well, it's actually just 10% off the 15% price.
Was that a good enough answer for him?
No.
No, because Cliff then had to break out the calculator and be like, well, you see,
That's not what you said.
that's not how percentages off work. You can't just take that and then say it's 25. So it was 22.5% off. And then the person who was manning the station like turned on their customer service face and then just ignored Cliff completely.
I've done that before. Oh, totally. I don't even blame them. It's not their decision. It's just like, well, sucks.
Too bad.
Exactly.
Unlucky, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
That was
I'm sorry. I
basically-
wish there was something I could do for you, but unfortunately, that is our policy. And if you have a problem with the product, you can return it, but I cannot offer you an additional discount at this time.
Basically.
Damn. He's got the speech ready.
Yeah.
I had all of the respect for it in the world because I was like, yeah, that's just what you do. Having worked in customer service before, you just gotta know.
Nope.
All right, Anthony, I've waxed philosophic enough.
All right, you did it. I can't seem to evict my cat appropriately, no matter
What's the cat's name, Anthony? I didn't even know you had a cat.
This is Pickles.
Oh, such a good name.
That's an amazing name.
She's not very smart, but she is real cute. She's the only cat I've ever seen with just like nothing going on behind her eyes. Like the lights are on, but no one's home. Like most cats look pretty with it. Not this one.
I don't know. This one's managed to con you into petting it constantly.
I mean, she's a literal baby. I don't know. Like, there's no brains in there. So my weekend was really good. It started with a charity stream where I drank a beer out of a shoe on stream.
I'm so sad to miss that.
Yeah,
Which will
if you
be in
guys
my
don't watch
weekend
that.
wrap
Yeah,
up.
you guys were busy getting kicked out of the hall by the very polite Wink.
No. I
F.
was in plane, except.
Oh yeah, you were in a plane, or you too could have been kicked out of the hall very rudely. So yeah, we slammed a shoey on stream for charity. If you want to go back and watch a completely ridiculous game played by me and David Gaylord, it's on the War Games Live channel on YouTube.
You won me a drink, thanks, bud.
I did. I won you a drink. I won me a dinner. Woo! It got nuts. So yeah, we like set up our player place, and David was like, "I can't win," so someone donated $100. We had to trade deployment zones, and that was the least ridiculous thing that happened. So yeah, go back and give that a watch. I end up getting charged by my own Abaddon under the effects of a WA. It's a wild game.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, bad things happened, and I still won by a whole bunch. Best the Shadow Blade, who someone slammed on the table, the Bane Sword or whatever it was. Anyway, so that was my day. I went 5-1. I got best CSM. Played a bunch of really cool people. I played 2 East Coast people in round 5 and 6, which was kind of funny.
Who'd you get?
I got Jonathan Domas, who is like literally from Long Island, where I'm from, and then I played Larry Oliver, who's the Tyrannid boy from the DMV area. He was real good. He treats his gaunts terribly, though. He's super mean to his tiny bugs. He just picks them up by the fistful and throws them into ruins, like throwing dice. He's like, they're in there, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's where those go now. Yeah, we had a good time. I got a sweet picture of the battle of the flying monsters. My demon prince killing his hive tyrant. It was cool stuff. So yeah, broadly, I had a good set of games at LVO. I did not have
that was very carefully chosen.
Yeah, those were very specific language. I did not super enjoy the event itself, but the games and the opponents I played, all excellent, top to bottom. I got what I wanted though, which was no dicks. I played all cool people. So, and that was my concern 1, 2, and 3 for me for this, especially after that stream raised as much money as it did on the Friday. I was very not attached to how the event went. So yeah, things were good.
Cool. You got a little plaque on it that said you were a good boy, and
Yeah, I got my
being bad
syndrome plaque, my 1 year relief from imposter syndrome. So yeah, pretty good.
Is it that easy?
Yeah, it's that easy. I mean, for me, it's not that hard. I find it easy to dodge imposter syndrome in my later part of my 20s. The mid and earlier part, mess. But now, easy enough. That gets better.
Yeah, we'll talk about issues, I guess, when I'm all done. That's the spicy part, I guess.
We're gonna let you go, and then we'll crush FLG's terrain dreams.
You know, I mean, my weekend was fine.
That's pretty good.
Played some good opponents, had some good games, really just generally all around a good time. So, you know. No, the weekend started terribly. So I had a flight that was supposed to be fairly early. It was supposed to leave at like 8 or something in the morning from Orlando because I'm cheap. And I was going to drive down the night before, stay with Quentin, and then I was going to leave my car there. We were both going to go to the airport in Orlando because Tallahassee Airport, you know, is very small. You can get through security very quick. It's very nice. It doesn't go anywhere, and it costs $1 million.
Yep.
So drove down to Orlando and stayed there. Then we got out super early in the morning. Yesterday was my first actual night of sleep. Awesome. And we got there. We got to the gate like just in time. They were boarding. It was like 7:30 or whatever. We get on the plane. And we get on the plane and we sit. 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 And they're like, and they don't tell us anything for like an hour. And you know, that's not normal.
It's not great.
Not great.
No.
So about half an hour in, they give us an update that they don't know anything and that they'll update us, which is, you know, awesome as far as those things go.
Amazing.
And then an hour in, they tell us, hey, listen, we just need to get, you know, certified by the mechanics. And if you want to go stretch your legs, you can step off. You know, you can get off the plane, stretch your legs. Then when everything's better, you can come back on the plane. And the plane will fly away. And then 5 minutes later, they were like, all right, listen here. We're not asking anymore. Get off the fucking plane. So we got off the plane. We waited like several hours. I was actually on the same plane as the Warpfire guys, as the guys who run Warpfire. So that was pretty cool. But sat there several hours, get back on the plane, get on a new plane. Apparently the old plane, the tail didn't work. They need those. Didn't realize that. But new one has a plane, has a tail, probably one of the newer models, you know, that come with it. And then we also spend like half an hour on the runway and then take off. And then we land. And of course, there's another plane at our terminal. So that takes even more time. So it ended up being about an 11-hour trip instead of a 5-hour trip. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that was fun. I completely missed. I was planning to just camp next to Anthony when he played David. Unfortunately, I ended up completely missing them for the rest of the night because when I got in, they were eating dinner because they don't care about me. And
I think we had actually gone to bed by the time you landed.
Maybe. I don't know.
even less caring. Like dinner without you was like one level. Going to sleep without you is like a whole nother level of not.
He just messaged me when we were like walking back to the room and was like, I'm still not there, or like I just landed or something. And I was like, damn son, that's bad.
Yeah, it was pretty. I got a $10 voucher for food. So, you know, they'll never be able to take that away from me.
You could buy a side of fries in a Vegas hotel.
That's not even. I would have loved to.
I don't think it even gets you that.
I don't think it does. That's a $12 sandwich with no sides. Like,
yeah, you have to pay them money by the end of it. You're like, what?
Where'd this happen? Wow. Yeah.
You know, that was a bad start, but generally I managed to caffeine my way through the rest of the weekend, which is, you know, healthy and good. It just makes me run better, you know, like it's not unhealthy at all. It's fine, actually. Had good games. Generally, no real issues.
Right.
just getting through. I had a tough game round 5 against a Necrons player who, I mean, he just had like several models that were leading the way that I just couldn't kill. Luckily, he didn't really look at the scoreboard, which is something he learned from that game.
Everybody's
That you
favorite.
can't just look on the scoreboard when you pass turn to your opponent having bottom of 5. That's not really it.
That's a bit late in the
It's
cycle.
it's a little late. I think he just assumed I was losing, but I was getting all my points except for Fury of the Lost because I literally didn't kill anything until turn 5.
Nobody died.
Yeah, nobody died. So it's just unlucky. You know, he had an Tesseract Vault, which it turns out may not actually be able to Veil of Darkness, because the Tesseract Vault is like this big and it needs to wholly be within 6 inches of the veil.
Yeah, it's too big.
Yeah, it's definitely too big.
But it was a good game. It was a good game generally. When we got to the end, there was some debate over what the score was. At first, I was winning. Then I was losing. Then I was winning again. Then we were drawn, and I didn't. And I think I didn't want. I don't even remember honestly. There was a judge at the table the whole time, just standing there with his arms crossed, just watching.
That's
And-
unlimited of judging for sure.
Yeah, you know, it was fine. I mean, we managed to settle it eventually. But then partway through, I was just like, listen, if this Death Company guy, if he just goes and aces that plane, then we just don't have to have this conversation anymore. And my opponent's like, yeah, because he thought I couldn't do it. So I gave that guy every single buff. I rezzed a second guy and went and smoked the plane, and there you go.
Easy.
We're done. Put it in the books.
Not do it.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, I played Wallace O'Donnell round 3. That was fun. He's playing some weird nonsense as he usually does.
Demons.
Yeah, he was playing some weird Disciples of Bellicor thing.
Even more weird.
Yeah, it was very weird. There's this impression online that we had a bad game, and we didn't. You can actually, he's posted some stuff up. We've actually been chatting lists the last several days. There's no issues. But that's the top 6. Then I get into Shadow Round, and I get paired up into, finally, I had like the hardest tech of my life that I've ever taken. I took for T-Sons. I had 3 units of infiltrators, and on top of Soul Warden, on top of like nasty melee.
Crash units to put in front, all the setup.
The whole thing. And then I pair into poor old TJ in the Shadow Round.
Our good buddy, our good friend, the highest ranked stat checked team member at the event.
True.
I feel like I'm a stat check team member in my heart. Not
Well, then,
on the
I mean,
page, obviously, but like in
Yeah.
here where it counts.
You played on our objectives all weekend, didn't you?
I did.
he
They
scored
were
the shit
nice.
out of those objectives too.
What's up?
I said he scored the shit out of those objectives too.
Oh yeah, I stole them too.
Yeah, he
They're
took them
mine now.
back when he lost them.
Oh, mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that game lasted like literally 15 minutes because we set up. I went first. I put all the infiltrators so that he couldn't teleport, couldn't deep strike, couldn't do anything at all. And then I put my entire army in a castle in the center, and I was like, ready when you are.
And then it turns out he was ready to go to bed.
Yeah, he was ready to go to bed. He looked at that and was just like, listen, man, it's late. I'm going to bed.
Yeah. I'm not going to win. This is fake.
Yeah, because he's not scoring any of his points because he took no prisoners. He took the thing where he has to kill people in the psychic phase,
Yeah.
and he took interrogation. So turn 1, he gets interrogate and teleports back. And I'm like, all right, well, because I went first and I went and killed something. So I got my Fury of the Lost for 4. And he stayed off all the objectives. So I was getting a 0 on shock tactics. And then turn 2, I'm like, well, next turn, everything will be an assault doctrine. So I don't need buffs. And all 4 of my characters advanced directly into my back corner.
That's far away.
Oh, yeah.
What about that
He was in
interrogate?
his corner because he was trying to stay out of my charge range. So I just measured, make sure if he teleported his guy, if he double moved his guy, he couldn't interrogate me, period. And I was just like, over to you. You are stuck at a checks notes 6 on secondaries, and I have banners and a 4 on Fear of the Lost, and I'm getting 12s and you're getting 4s.
And of note, like, important clarification, you only need to win by 1 on the shadow round. So playing it out for any reason basically is just scamming your opponent if you're going to lose.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
was
the game doesn't exist in the records or anything like that. It is you win or you lose and you move on or you go to bed.
Yeah, he was faced with sacrificing his entire army or sacrificing it slowly on to give me secondary points or going to bed. And he went to bed. And I don't blame him.
Reasonable.
The army finally did what it was designed to do, and that was kill T-Suns. And it killed T-Suns.
Yeah, kill T sounds real good.
The hardest lock I think I've ever put on anyone in a game. Just like there's nothing he could have done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you guys sat there and tried to figure it out afterwards, right? Where you were like,
both of us. Yeah, we left the
anything?
table as it was, and we just both sat there like this for like a couple of minutes, being like, "Yeah, nope." So I also Inferno pistoled 3 of his Terminators to death before I killed 2 units, squads of Rubrics, turn 1. So that's just ridiculous.
That is rude.
We'll talk more about terrain, but the entire event I was trying to dip, duck, dodge, dive, and dodge, Tau on not Sisters or Chaos Gate tables. And I managed to do it, and that's why I'm the best.
That's right.
Yeah, because if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't dodged them on those terrain, I would not have won the event.
Yeah, it was a dark path playing on those terrible tables.
Yep. Every
Yep. As David Gaylord
David.
says, he should have donated $100 and swapped the table to industrial terrain. Big smiley face.
I would have taken $100 for that. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. I feel like I'm hard teched enough.
Maybe.
I don't know. That story's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But luckily, by the time I played Tau, it was in top 8. And top 8 was entirely Sisters tables.
Yep.
And that is where the 2 Tau that made top 8 stopped winning.
Yep.
Well, they stopped automatically winning, which meant that they stopped winning.
Yeah, I mean, they started automatically losing, is another way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Good.
the Sisters terrain industrial terrain is like no line of sight blocking terrain anywhere, full stop. Like there's just nothing to do.
Bro, it's fine.
Yeah, it's easy. You just can't hide from them, period. To Sisters terrain where I felt really safe, really taken care of inside.
Yeah.
I just put my army in this. I deployed enough terrain in my deployment zone that I could exist on my objectives exist in my deployment zone and on the objectives without being seen. I was like, wow, I have a 3rd ruin here.
Yeah, where's this go?
That's going on the line just as a screw you. Here's 7 Sangard like in the center of the board that you can't deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, Martine, our industrial is where Ennis played Brad.
Yeah.
Ennis
and also where Quentin played Brad too.
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty rough.
See earlier comments about automatically winning on that board.
It's rough, bro. It's rough.
Yeah.
But luckily I played them on no line of sight for it. Like their guns all became range 0 because they just couldn't shoot at anything. Yeah. And I ran the table. It was like a ludicrous game. Like he couldn't move anywhere or I'd kill him. I was scoring all my points. It was stupid. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's the opposite of what Tau had been doing to people up to that point. So I don't really feel bad.
They deserved it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, all the stories, like I'm just living in fear the first 2 days of do I get Tau on industrial? And so when I get Tau on Sisters, I do not feel bad.
Game.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty great. Then Mike Porter the entire weekend there were a bunch of people who I was competing with for best ITC. I was competing with John, my teammate. So if he wins it, great. I'm happy for you. Then there was Vic and David, who, again, I'm happy for you, but I'd rather if I won it, and I know they're watching. So, hey guys. And then there was Mike Porter. He was basically the last one. Technically, Nassim could have done it, but I think once I made top 16 or top 8, like he couldn't anymore. Yeah.
And he got
yeah. Vic, David, and John did not make Shadow Round. So the last person that I had to compete with was Mike Porter. And Mike Porter would not lose.
He would get very close, though.
Multiple times. Very close.
One of those times I had been told not just that he's losing, but that he had lost. And I was like, oh, that's a weight off my mind. And then I gotten several handshakes from people coming up to me like, congratulations on winning the ITC. And I'm like, thank you. And then like 15 minutes later, he wins by 2 or something. I'm like, so. And then round the quarterfinals, he plays up against Tao on not industrial on Sisters terrain. I'm like, all right, well, he's winning that one, and sure enough, he did. So I play him in the semifinals, which honestly feels like the best way to end it is like we actually play off. We play that game for the ITC, which I think is pretty sweet. So we line up. It's quarters. My finals game went pretty quick, so I'm going to be a little more descriptive about this one. First off, Typhus in the Stat Check Discord had some spicy things to say about how the Blood Angel into Harlequin matchup would go. Apparently unlosable. Stay tuned. So pair up into him. It's on the Sisters table, which is good for me. That's really good for me. There's a lot fewer angles, lines of sight. It's not as bad as against Tao because he does have melee and he does have a lot of scoring, so he can keep up as well. But it does help because his boats aren't just like randomly shooting into me. Although they kind of shot like different units over the course of the game. Yeah, whatever.
Right.
Point is, I could deploy fairly fine, like kind of reserved behind terrain. And he won the terrain roll off, which was kind of unfortunate. He just put a crate on the center like a jerk. And then I know, right? He's just scared of me commitment, of me committing my army to the center of the board.
Scared of commitment. The married man with multiple question mark children?
I believe so. If his Facebook profile picture is to be believed.
At least one.
But he's scared of me committing my army to the center of the board, so he put a crate down. But two of my objectives had ruins on them, so I felt fairly confident that I could sit there with a 6-inch heroic and either control the objective or get a bunch of resources out of him, or both. Because you can break a 6-inch heroic on the objective. It's just not fun. It's, especially if I'm more than an inch away from the wall, because the way to do it would be like troops get on the objective and then the boat charges. And that keeps me from doing it. I made sure to have like objective secured unit plus Sangard, so that wouldn't work.
Right.
There's multiple layers to it. You can get around it. It's just difficult.
A giant pain.
It's a giant pain. And so what that meant was I'm fairly safe at holding my 2 objectives. In fact, I don't think he ever took my home objectives away from me. Like one in my deployment zone and the one up above, he never took those away from me. But I was just focused on taking his primary, getting my shock tactics, getting my Fury of the Lost, etc. Turn 1, I go in, I pregame move my Death Company up because the Hammer Death Company actually aren't that impressive in this matchup. Nope. So I figure I'll make a trade. They're weirdly enough not. Yeah. And I figure I'll get a trade. I want to cut down his number of boats. The boats are the really annoying part. Troops on foot, easy. Gun them down with Angel's bolt guns. Nobody cares. But the boats give them protection from my combat, gives him mobility. So I want to kill those. So I go in and I commit and I go to kill 2 boats. And there's a solitaire right there, which I didn't even see because the ruin is just Sisters terrain. Like Tao couldn't see me. I couldn't see his guys physically. So he asks if I want to charge him. And I go, sure. And then he light strats away. And I go, I'm not going to chase the solitaire, even though I probably should have. Because the idea was I would charge the solitaire, hammer wrath him, make it so only 1 thunder hammer had to go through, and then kill him because I had +1 to hit, full rerolls, wound on 2s, delete. He took assassinate also, which is a little shaky, but I get his reasoning. He took it because he has a lot of melee missiles that are running across the board, and he would just send 1 in, kill a character, send 1 in, kill a character.
And if you eliminate the solitaire, then he can't do that with Blitz.
Exactly. So he's 1 fewer trade resource. I don't know if that was actually the correct play, but it's a very interesting strategy. It's hard to stop him from doing that.
Unless you get real constrained about your movement, at which point is that even worth it?
Exactly. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. And if he's actively trying to exploit it, he might be able to. But he light strats away, which, eagle-eyed viewers might be able to figure out what's wrong with that. And then I hit the 2 boats and, I do 3 damage I do 2 damage with a crack grenade somehow. I still don't know how. And I get in, I kill 1 and I drop 1 to 3. And that's enough. I've killed a boat. I would like to kill both, but whatever. His turn, he picks them up and he moves forward onto objectives. He doesn't deploy on his home objective like some people do. So I didn't get shock tactics. Yeah. There's plenty of people who said, I'm not going to deploy on any forward objectives. And I go, cool, and take their home objective and get shock tactics off it.
Yep.
That happened in my game against. Yeah, it happened in multiple games. Anyway, so I go hit him. He takes his solitaire and he blitzes and he goes and he kills my sanguinary priest, which I'm actually okay with. I think it's fine. It's just a trade. It's purely a trade. It's his only unit that has AP3 other than the
fusions.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Those hurt. But in combat, I guess, like Storied Sword guy, I guess, has it. But yeah, I'm okay with the trade. I'm fine with it. But then the judge walks over and goes, "Hey, did that guy light strat?" And we're like, "Yeah." Apparently, Mike has. I believe he hasn't played with the solitaire and light.
He hasn't. He played one tournament with it, and so far as I'm aware, it's not really like a thing he uses.
Yeah, and if light strat, you can't light strat the solitaire.
Correct.
If that's been burned into your head that every unit in your army can run away when you charge, that's a thing that happens.
And for anyone listening who's wondering why, it's because the solitaire doesn't have the Sadith keyword, so he can't go and
have like
he can't
previous editions, right?
Yeah, he has had that in the previous edition, but in this edition of the Eldari Codex, he doesn't have the Sadith keyword, which means he can't go in boats. You can't use specific stratagems on him. You can't give him any of the special Sadith abilities, relics, warlord traits, what have you. He just exists.
Yeah. So the judges handled it very well. Mike is a fantastic opponent, amazing guy. Love playing him. This is a classic. Your brain has a certain way it stores information, and it just short circuits. Not even short circuits. It's just it applies that. If he'd taken a second to think about it, I'm sure he would have thought. If you asked him, "Hey, can you light strat a solitaire?" He would have been like, "No."
Right.
But if he's in a position where one of his units is being charged, that connection doesn't happen.
Right.
It's just
like you play Harlequins, right? If you didn't catch it either.
Yeah, I didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Like I played Harlequins to my last, super major.
Right.
I didn't catch it. But as soon as the judge said, "Hey, did you light strat?" I was like, "Wait a minute."
Yeah, right.
He's not Sadith. So I don't blame him for it. That's a natural mistake to make. But what the judge did was the judge pulled the solitaire and said, "You don't exist, and the sanguinary priest is back." Mike asked me if it was all right if he uses his Chegarak Rose Foot in the Future guy to go kill him instead. And I was like, totally fine. Just roll it out again. Just put in there, hit me with it, roll it out again, and we're good. And even through a reroll, he managed to kill him. So we're all good. He can use a second character, game state restored, etc. I think I trade a little bit. I kill his master, which is great. He's used up 2 resources. We both knew it was a huge deal because he's used up 2 of his character hunting resources to get 1 character, and he's lost a lot of killing power.
Well, he's steps behind now in the game plan, right?
Yeah, he's multiple steps behind because we're roughly the same on score. Depends on his assassinate, but he's used up 2 of his dynamic go trade out resources, and that's a huge deal. It's a really, really big deal. So we both knew it. We actually had a little conversation about it. But I go contest one of his objectives, take it away. So I get, shock tactics. I kill his guy with my death company. So that's Fury of the Lost. I'm getting my points, etc. Pass the turn back to him. He realizes he needs to get behind enemy lines and stuff. So because he took Deadly. So he needs to get into my deployment zone, which is a scary place to be when Sangard Heroic 6, etc. So he sets up a play where he runs his guys down and he tries to go kill Dante, which is a baller plan for the record.
At the best of times.
What's that?
I said at the best of times. That's a bold mission.
It is a bold plan. It does 1 damage, 1 wound to Dante, but he gets back in a boat afterwards. So he goes down, and then a boat comes down into my deployment zone, and then he hops into the boat. But I heroic into the boat with Sangard, something he knew I could do. I'm not 100% sure why he did it, but he did. So he goes down. I'm like, I can heroic that. He's like, okay, but they'll get in the boat and get his behind, get his Deadly. And he takes a swing at Dante and does 1 damage because -1 to hit, 2 up armor save, armor of contempt. You're not killing Dante. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So kill the boat in my deployment zone. Dudes fall out. And remember, I'm actively keeping track of how many boats I can kill because his boats have a target on their head for me. I want them dead.
Right.
So that happens, and he pushes a bunch of other stuff up the board because he needs to continually get behind enemy lines at deadly, and otherwise he's just not going to. So I also hit his like far right flank with my Death Company, which like cut off his ability to push right as much, so he's kind of adjusting for it. And then I look at the board and I think, well, I have two options. He's starting to push up the board. I'm starting to lose my ability to control where his units go. You know, he's got like a boat up a little bit here and a boat a little bit down here and a boat a little bit out here. And if I play the tradey game, he's going to pick up more resources. He's not on the objective with his bow, but he's like a little bit back trying to make me send a resource out, or it just gets to live there. Things like that. And so we take a second and I realize I can either hit him really hard with everything I have and just slug it out, or I can try and continue playing the game that I'm playing. So we look at the points, and the points are very close. Like they're very, very, very close. Basically I'm ahead, but it comes down to where's Assassinate sitting, and also he has bottom of turn, so it's like where does the 12 come in? And it's close. Like it's a close game. Like even with the 12 I'm winning, but he can definitely do stuff. And I basically flash back to his 3 previous games where he was losing. He's gonna lose. He's oh boy, you better watch out. He's losing. And I'm like, I'm just gonna hit you in the face. Like I'm not letting you have units by the end of the game. So everything
don't player do tricky shit. Just
no, because he's very tricky. Like, he's a very tricky player. I played him at WTC when we played England, actually. Had a fantastic game. So I knew he was good going into this. I knew he was very good because I experienced it firsthand. So I just jumped every single, it was Assault Doctrine at this point. I jumped every single unit out. Every single one. And I was just like, all right, you die today. And I managed to shoot one boat to death. I killed the troops that were in my deployment zone. I killed the troops that got out. I charged a troop unit that had gotten out of the boat that I charged turn 1. I shot his Shadow Seer in the face with Inferno pistols and killed her because she had come up to try and put wounds on Dante with Mirror of Minds and it had done 1. That was the one that he had done to Dante.
She found out instead.
Yeah, she got 3 Inferno pistols to the face and failed 2 saves. Like, that's not going to do it. So I hop everything out, and also he light strats the 3 troops away. They were 3 inches away. Now they're at 9. It's an 8. I had charged every single boat on the board with Sanguinary Guard and Death Company and whatnot. So I was like, no other targets. Casually bangs a 10, gets in there, charges the last 3. I mean, I needed an 8, but I rolled a 10, which turned into an 11. So at that point, oh yeah. Lamarty's cleaned up the squad that was in my deployment zone. There was only 1 left. Killed him. Death Company killed 1 up top. Sanguinary Guard went boat dead, boat dead, boat dead, boat dead, boat dead, boat dead. I think it was 5 boats that turn, maybe 4. But it was all of his boats died that turn. It was 1, 2, 3. In combat, I killed 4. In shooting that turn, I killed 1. So, and that turn, I killed 3 troop squads. So he has 5 troop squads. And 1 character.
So you broke his back.
Yeah, that was what he had left. He had 5 troop squads, 1 character. One of them took 3 casualties getting out of the boat, which was, statistically likely. Ouch. Oh, he also had 2 Death Jesters, but for what that's worth. So he shoots me with everything, does quite a bit of damage. He hits with like almost all of his fusion pistols. But I make some saves. I have to be in the open, unfortunately. So his shooting phase is gonna hurt. Like, no questions asked. Then he charges me, and that hurts significantly less. He kills Dante with a single fusion pistol off his troop master, which was
a little.
I'm not spending CP for it to try and save Dante because I had 2 CP. So I interrupted with what became a 6-man squad on the side objective and picked up like his mortal wound DJ, a full squad of troops, and dropped another one down to like 1.
Yeah.
And then, he looked at the turn after his assault phase killed 2 with his story sword guy. No one else killed any Sangard. And then he just looked at the board and went, "Yeah, I think you got it, mate." And I was like, "Yeah,
me too."
Yeah. So, whew. Yeah. Sometimes when you're playing a really good player, just punch them in the face. because I'm not going to let him sit around and play 40K. He's too good at that.
Yeah, got enough, no more.
No,
I will say one of the things that you mentioned that kind of triggered a reminder in my head, you can't get into a boat that's in engagement range with someone.
Oh, well, I think it's...
So that heroic actually was a big deal.
Oh, well, I killed it anyway, so...
Yeah, you killed it anyways, but it meant that he couldn't, like...
He could have
zip
gone
away.
somewhere else.
Yeah, he could have gone somewhere else, but it is something for others. If you're wondering about doing a trick like that, you can't get into a boat when it's in engagement range, or any transport when
Well,
it's
just
in
don't let it get
engagement range.
heroics.
Yeah, make
don't
sure
let
you're
the-
6.1 inches away.
Yeah. That's a good point. But yeah, so I killed the boat, and I killed all of his stuff in like one turn. And so he was left with like 3 squads of troops and 2 characters in front of like 12 sanguinary guard and 3 characters and a unit of 2 death company and my troops. It was rough. I would have actually shot him to death at that point, not even charged him to death, just Angelus bolt gunned. So I mean, that was a good game. That was a really, really good game. Turns out Twilight, I actually played in practice. I played that game into a Twilight list, a Twilight boat spam list, and it got real sketchy when I took my go turn and charged all the boats, because you kind of force them into that position where you just play the scoring game, but you're like picking up boats and stuff, and you're holding your objectives with 6-inch heroics, and they're not, or they are, but you don't have to respect them the same way.
Yeah,
right.
But when I made my go turn there, the Twilight list actually hit pretty hard. Now that was because Quentin may have done something like 9 mortal wounds off 2 psychic powers.
Sometimes, Matt.
Times is
Possibly.
the best.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it got sketchy there. But I know his list does not hit nearly as hard up close as the Twilight list, as the Twilight build, especially once you remove 2 of the characters and just like you don't get those anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew if I commit and he's already down on troops, math says I shouldn't even come close to dying, and then I only need some amount of Sandguard in order to take this game back.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, you and I going into the tournament, we're kind of like, I think Harlequins is near enough to fine as makes no difference.
Yeah, I mean, I knew basically what build he was going to run because he had just won Nottingham with it.
Yeah.
Nottingham. And I looked at it, I was like, I know what this build does. It's good. It's tricky. It can hit hard. But I also know that it's going to be okay.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I also know that if you run to the Harlequin player, that is going to be a rough day at the office. If you are playing into light and you run after them and you try and chase them, because like, Jack said, you just run them down. It's easy. No. If you go and chase them and they run away and they trade 1 unit for a boat and then they shoot you to death and they just keep doing it and picking you apart, it's going to be really bad.
It's not them getting 8s. If they're getting 8s while you're chasing them because you're chasing units and not objectives, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, you got to go to the objectives. Yeah, that's what you do. You lock down your objectives and you just take objectives away from them. You make it so you go to the objective and you declare a charge, and if they leave, you're like, cool, my objective.
That's fine. Yeah. Thumbs up.
Great success.
Yeah.
And then eventually at some point they will have to give you a big enough percentage of their army to where the go turn can happen. Recharge everything.
Sweet.
So that was awesome. You know, win the ITC in one turn. That was a pretty fun fight phase where I was just like roll. Oh, dead. Roll. Oh, dead. Cool.
Right.
Then I pair into Sean after Sean has a game into Soli that happened.
I made a video about it. If you're curious, just go watch Adam Camilleri's video on Facebook. I think Ardwar even reposted it.
Yep, it came down to a dice off as to who won that game, and it was Sean because he's playing orc, so he rolls the 6.
That's true.
Yeah,
there's very funny pictures. Actually, my Facebook cover photo is now the picture of us watching that game.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So I play into Sean in the finals, and Sean is running just a whole bunch of Goff dudes with power claws, and it's a lot of stuff in transports. And apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently the matchup's free for him. I didn't know that But he told me that he auto wins it.
He's getting in my head.
It didn't work.
No.
So turn one, he seemed a little out of sorts, honestly. Like turn one, he had a plan. He had a plan that we sit back and score. So did I, as it turns out. So I think that would have also been fine.
Yeah.
But he just wogged turn one, go. And he just like, oh yeah. Oh, you didn't see the game, Anthony?
No, I did not.
No. Oh, okay. Yeah, he wogged turn one on the line. Like we both deployed.
What he won turn two. That was the
No, he wogged turn one. And you remember how he failed the 6-inch rerollable charge with his bike boss into Sully?
Oh no, dude.
Oh yeah, there was a 6-inch charge turn one with his bike boss, and guess what happened? Yeah, that dude did not make that charge. He had set up
hanging out
commandos there to take away my heroic intervention on my ancient, so that the ancient couldn't cover, and then Angel sack and make the entire turn pointless. And so that unit had to go into a sanguinary guard squad or a death company squad or whatever, and just die for free.
Oh,
Or not for free. Sorry, I lost a couple dudes. We're good. So he commits that. He commits his bike boss, to watching to make sure his boys do good work. And then he loses. He loses a squad of. Well, he throws a squad of knobs into me with power claws, and he throws 2 squads of bikes, and he throws 2 squads of storm boys.
Yeah,
he
a lot of top of one charges.
Yeah, I mean, I deploy on the line. I'm not a coward.
That's right.
Yeah. So you can get around all the heroic interventions and stuff. It just taxes you units. It's fine. Like if you're a good enough player, you can get around it, but it's going to cost you. It's going to be annoying. It's going to be difficult. But yeah, so he lost a bunch. My Sangard heroic into the commandos, so I got a bunch of extra distance on them, and he pushed everything else up the board. And so he gets to the center. I believe he doesn't quite do good bits because he's not quite in range because we move the objectives. He's not quite in range to do good bits turn one with his commandos. He moves his Gretchen down. He moves his commandos over to the objective. He advances them on, so he doesn't get to do good bits. But he gets biggest and the best, and he gets green tide for like 2. Anyway, so he charges me. He does a decent amount of damage. Like he does some good work into my army for sure. But I kill a lot of the stuff that's in front of me. I leave his 8-man knob unit down to 3 because he charged Sangard and Death Company, and he punched the Sangard, and they lost like 4 guys, and he punched the Death Company, and they lost nobody. And so the Sangard, I mean, he threw like 2 guys into them. They're power claws. They hit
but nobody is.
Well, he did one wound got through because I have 4 ups.
Yeah.
1 wound. He has 4 ups, then 2 ups, then I have 4 ups again. 5 ups. I just rolled a little hot on the 5 ups, and then he got 1 through, and I saved it. Right, I made a feel no pain.
1 feel no pain, yeah.
So I swung with the Sangard and pulled. Maybe he killed 3 or something. I don't really remember, but he pulled out of combat with the Death Company. Yeah, there was 3 left. He killed 4. There was 3 left. He pulled out of combat with the Death Company, which is what I wanted. I didn't want the Death Company to be stuck in because, like, if I hit him with the Death Company, which is a heavier unit, like it hits harder, he'll still probably have 1 guy left alive. And that guy will not be in combat with the Sangard. It'll be in combat with the Death Company. And then the Death Company will be stuck there as opposed to the Sangard. So I hit him with the Sangard first. And if you want to stay with the Death Company, bye. But so he didn't want to. So he pulled out of combat.
Right.
So now he's kind of put his army in front of me and killed some of my army. A unit of infiltrators, half a unit of Sangard, half a unit of Death Company. And I was like, cool. So I throw all my buffs up. And completely forgot that his knob unit existed, FYI. But then just hit a whole bunch of stuff up and down his line, shot away a bunch of his Gretchen, which will become important in a second, and completely 6-inch wrapped his battle wagon that had like 11 mega knobs in it or 9 mega knobs in it or something with power claws. And also a character, a knob of the Wog Banner. 6-inch wrapped it because he had blocked it from behind with another battle wagon and like 2 characters. And then so I 6-inch wrapped it with just my whole army, charging various things, piling and consolidating. So if I killed this thing, all that dies. There's no emergency disembarks. There's no nothing. So of course I undercommit and don't kill it.
like a champion.
Woo!
Literally.
You too can win the IDC and LVO if you mess up that bad.
Yep.
It was a huge mistake, but it's fine. Neither of us were really playing at our best. Yeah, I just kind of assumed it would die, but I wasn't an Assault Doctrine army wide, and he has a 5-up invuln, and it just
a little bit
I
of
didn't win
dice.
with any of my Inferno pistols, even the ones that were, re-rolling to hit or hitting on a 2 because it's Dante. Like I shot it with 6 Inferno pistols and did 4 damage, I think, and then charged it with a bunch of stuff and just didn't kill it. Did pick up his war boss though. That guy, I offered a trade. I made a trade offer. Would you like my Sanguinary Ancient and one of my CP in exchange for 2 of your CP? And he declined.
Yeah.
So if he fought on death, I would Angel Sacrifice and he would kill a random character that doesn't matter at that point in the game.
Brutal.
Yeah. I was more than willing to make that trade. He was not. So I charged a whole bunch of stuff and I left it alive, which was yeah, it was super bad. I left the battle wagon alive. So of course, I mean, everything inside would have died. Maybe one model would have made it out. I do not know, because there was like maybe a little bit of space behind it. Unfortunately, I leave it alive, so all of his Mega Knobs get out and charge me, and all of his Gretchen charge me as well in order to immobilize every mod in the unit so that he can stand 1 inch away and deny my interrupt functionally.
Yep,
it's a really Sean play. Fortunately, what happened was he didn't kill me, and well, he couldn't get to every one of my units. All my characters weren't getting charged. Yeah. He basically hit the unit of Death Company down below. That got hit and cleaned up. It was at like 3 models left, and it went to 0 because his knobs that I'd completely forgotten about went and killed him. He killed like 6 out of 1 unit of Sangard with, I believe, leadership as well. He killed 6 out of 1 unit of Sangard. No, they passed leadership. Killed 6 out of 1 unit. I'm out of focus. Whoop. There we go. And he killed like 4 out of another one, which took him out of combat with his knob on Smash a Squig. If he had one, maybe it was some kind of character charge me. Dime a dozen in that list. So he left me with like 3 Sanguinary Guard that then killed all of his Gretchen that were in combat with me, so they're free now.
Uh-oh.
And also, if you notice what happened there, I also killed his on turn 1. I killed his Ludas that were on the middle objective. If you notice what happened is he has no Gretchen and no Ludas, only Mega Knobs, and like 2 characters. And so on my turn, I have 1 Sangard. He charged Zagstruck into 3 Sangard, killed 1, and died in response.
Yep.
No rerolls. That happens.
Sanguinary Guard.
Yeah, Sanguinary Guard are so good. So I have 2 Sangard that are about to turn into 3, or probably it's just 2 Sangard, 1 Death Company with a Power Fist that's about to turn into 2 Death Company with a Power Fist and rerolls. I have 2 Death Company with a Power Fist, so because I kept those guys alive. So I have 4 Death Company, all the Power Fists. I have 3 Sangard that are just intact. I have 1 Sangard that's tying him up, and he looked at the board and went, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good." And I also had all of my characters, so like they're good for units by themselves. And really, what it was he was locked to a terrible secondary score. Right. He could not good bits anymore forever and ever. Amen. So he was locked to a 0 on get the good bits. Oh yeah, because he lost all his Gretchen and Ludas like in the first 2 turns without ever doing the action because they were too far from his deployment zone.
Yeah, and 2 turns is too long to have a unit stuck doing that action.
Exactly. Like Mega Knobs are never doing that action. In fact, they're going to be dead very soon.
Yep.
So he got a 0 on get the good bits. He was going to get like a 3 on Green Tide. Yeah, and I was about to kill his Warlord, so he was about to get a 2 on biggest and the best, and he looked at that, and I already had like 20 points on my secondaries, and he was like, "We're good."
Yeah,
or I was going to at the end of that turn have like a 20 on secondary. So even if we went even, he was just going to get hilariously outscored.
Yep,
makes sense.
Yeah,
damn.
So and then afterwards, I know there was at least there was a couple really good pictures of me kneeling on the edge of the stage saying hi to you guys.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that. There's also one of Anthony making the best face ever,
screaming, "Let's go!" at you.
Let's go! I'm sad they didn't get I'm
Very
sad they didn't get
excited.
the one where we're both like just screaming at each other's face.
Yeah, that would have been sweet.
That would have been awesome. So
And
yeah, I don't know. I just hit them really hard until they stopped moving. I'm a good player now.
He believes.
Well, congratulations again
Thank you. Thank you.
on winning both LVO and the ITC.
Yeah, with the most nonsensical season of faction choices anyone's ever had.
Faction specialists are
Are
faction
one
specialism is not a thing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you're like, well, I as a player, I might not be as good at 40K, but I'm better at whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
For anyone who's wondering, Jack has attended 10 GT or larger events this year. He has won 4 of them. He has won all 4 of those, and all 4 that he has won have been 174 or more players, and every single one that he has won has been with a different faction. In fact, he has attended these events with 8 different factions. He's repeated twice.
Oh, am I the 0.1% on that?
You are very much the 0.1% on that when it comes to factions played.
Yeah.
Like I'm just reading, I'm looking at your score sheet right now, and it's Blood Angels, Custodes, Harlequins, Drukari, Necrons, Tau, Sisters, Craft Worlds, Tau.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Just a few things. Just a few things.
I mean, I'm not going to say faction specialism isn't real. It
just
is.
words.
It's words. So, no, it doesn't necessarily give you a benefit. If it's something that benefits you, as in you don't necessarily hop factions very easily, like maybe you've got a day job or something, I wouldn't know. Then it probably does help quite a bit in just having that knowledge and having the reps with it.
Right.
But I personally, I mean, I do have a day job. Unfortunately, I got here at like 8:30 in the morning, and I've been working till now.
But I'll leave it to Taos to choose to steal my joke.
Hey,
Yeah.
That Jack
is
a jack of all trades. That is a joke.
But
Let
I
it
don't know.
go.
I just never. I mean, I've been faction hopping for years, so I've always just been good at it, I guess. I don't know. It's mostly faction knowledge. Like I'll look at a list, I'll look at an army, and I will build a list. And I take a while to build these lists too. It's just I think about it instead of sleeping. So it's normal. That's fine. That's just optimizing my time.
Yeah.
But
I have a moment alone with your thoughts when you could instead have Battlescribe open.
Or I could why drive somewhere and just like listen to music or be alone with your thoughts when I can call Anthony and be like,
That's right.
hey, you're not doing anything right now.
When you could be alone with Anthony's thoughts instead.
That's right. Anthony's thoughts got me here. I would not have picked Blood Angels if you hadn't said anything. 100%. No, that list was really good. That list was really good. I don't know. I don't really have a point about faction hopping. Other than anyone who goes, Art of War is good, but they don't know what they're talking about this army, I do instead.
You're wrong.
You're wrong.
Yay.
That's not how
Prove
40K
it.
works. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So you said the army is good. Is it still good in arcs? I love the facial expressions. The facial expressions say definitely not.
Well, the army is good because of Fury of the Lost.
And
How's
that's a bad thing.
Yeah, because if they sit back, yeah, Anthony, if you could find that for me, see how it changed. The thing was, if you sit back and do nothing, and they sit back and do nothing, you win because they have to be on fewer objectives than you. So you get 12s, they get 4s. If they come forward and contest objectives or anything, you're fast enough and you hit hard enough, you can clear objectives and you get your Fear of the Lost points, you get your shock tactics. So that's the pincer you put people in. And then also, Anthony, what do you do with playstyles 1 and 2? Those are playstyles 1 and 2 to fuel playstyle 3.
You grind them up and then snort the powder of playstyles 1 and 2 to fuel playstyle 3.
And playstyle 3 is let's go, send it, and you just go and charge everything.
Oh man, what does that say? Oh, that says there's no Fury of the
Yeah.
Lost anymore.
Oof,
Okay.
that one. That's
Just I can't
from
believe
Fury
it's
of the
not
Lost
behind
to
enemy
Fury
lines.
at your loss.
Yeah, Fury of your loss.
Yeah.
The real tears. Yep. All
Yeah.
right. So I'm going to do plugs real quick and then we'll do maybe just questions. I don't know. We'll chat about it in a minute.
There was questions about the event specifically, so we should hit those first so we can leave this event dead and buried behind us and proceed forwards.
Yep. Well, we're not going to leave it completely dead and buried because we are trying to organize a roundtable of people who want to talk about the event that Innis is currently coordinating. So we'll have a bunch of people on and they will have a roundtable about the terrain and how the event was run and how pairings were done and stuff like that. Probably mostly focusing on terrain and changes and suggestions that we have for Frontline to have a better event moving forward based on some of the concerns and criticisms from the event.
No comment.
We will definitely announce that on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/c/statcheck. And then we'll also announce it for all of our patrons. You can all watch that as well. Most likely that'll be some form of bonus content. So you'll probably have to join the Patreon in order to see it, but it'll probably be released later to the public at large. If you've enjoyed this episode and what you've heard, and you just also want to talk to us and see all of our bonus content like Enter the Matrix, where we focus on WTC team captains and what they have to say, you can join that at patreon.com/statcheck, I believe. If you want to see numbers, we'll look at our beautiful meta dashboard that Cliff puts together that we got compliments on like all weekend. And at least one time during LVO, Cliff whipped out his laptop to show one of my opponents while we were talking the actual dashboard like a car salesman or a politician. One of the two. I'm not sure which one yet. I haven't decided.
He sells politicians, I think.
He does, which is findable at www.stat-check.com/themeta, I believe. You can also find links to all sorts of other stuff there. We have articles on there, some of which you can now find on goonhammer.com. Me and Jeremy are working on one as soon as this episode is over, talking about some of the numbers of LVO. You'll be able to find that on goonhammer.com eventually, most likely tomorrow morning. And yeah, if you join the Patreon, that's great. If you can't, we would really appreciate a like or a subscribe on YouTube or a comment on one of our videos because those help the algorithm reach more people. And yeah, if you join the Patreon, you can also get way too much of us. We're always in there talking about stuff. And you can also get some of Jack because Jack is now in the Discord where
Jack
he
has
has...
What's that?
Jack has an emoji and then also has a cult called the Harpstars. You don't have to do anything to form a cult in our Discord. As Anthony learned when the V8s formed, you just have to kind of arrive and to be cool enough. And now Jack has the Harpstars.
I go on stat check one time
and you win the LVO.
You won LVO.
Yeah.
Jack, I just wanted something to do instead of play WoW, and this is where I am now. So
now you're doing this and playing WoW.
Yeah.
Just wait, we'll have a jersey with your face on it too.
Oh no. The T-Sun's L emoji.
We will take suggestions sent.
It's too late, bro. You're already in.
It's too late, buddy. So we'll transition to talking about Arcs of Omen. We can talk about terrain concerns first if we want to.
Yeah, let's get that. Or well, people had questions, right? Let's start there.
We do have just a ton of questions for...
Wait, not those. There was 2 in chat that I specifically was like, these are good ways to frame this.
People want to know about the event.
Now, not bop bop, but bop.
All right. That's the first one.
Which is Martine asking, would you guys recommend LVO for a European player, or are there any better events to go to?
First question, what would Innis say?
So
stay on your side of the pond?
Yeah. Broadly, having been to enough UKTC events now, and also having played in the WTC, I would say that I would plan to go to pretty much any of the UKTC events or the WTC War Masters, very especially if you can do either. If you're traveling, budgeting, you can only go to one thing that's huge and requires overseas travel, just go to War Masters. I didn't even play in War Masters last year. I just hung out, and that was still better than most event experiences I have. Go to the War Masters. It is.
Was
just
that
better.
the WTC singles?
That's the single. Yeah.
Was that the one where what did Sean threaten to do to us if we entered the?
Sean didn't say a thing. I got a separate threat from a different member of the team last year who I will leave off air. So yeah, as American Team USA members, we are not encouraged to play the singles.
Strongly not encouraged.
That's right, but not by the captain.
That is,
So,
I think.
Sean's
I wonder
official
if I'll be
policy-
on the. No, it's probably you who will have to threaten people next year.
I would never ever do that.
Right. Anyway.
As someone who played in the War Master singles last year, it was one of the most enjoyable tournaments I've ever been to. I am planning on going on doing it again this year, even though I was so exhausted by the end of that week. It was a fantastic experience to play against tons of other high caliber international players. The terrain was predictable. It was exactly what you could practice on it ahead of time. You knew exactly what you're getting into. The judging was absolutely fantastic and top notch. You knew you were going to get the best answers when you asked questions. And yeah, it was just a very smooth, very well run event.
Also, Mechlin is beautiful.
Mechlin is beautiful.
Before we get too much further, Anthony, when we talk about cost really quick, because people think of an international trip and they talk about like really high costs for both getting to an event and then staying in an event and stuff like that. Sure. How did the price for like one of your UKTC type events? I think you went to one or two of them, right?
I've been to one UKTC event. Yeah. So Coventry cost me half as much as LVO did.
Really?
Yeah. So between entry to the event, like, housing situation, basically, food through the event, food after the event, like going to dinner every night, hanging out every night, doing all the things, and even not doing that some nights at LVO, some nights just crashing. LVO was twice as expensive despite being in the same country as flying to England, staying there for 8 days, and then coming home.
I also think that if you plan that out enough in advance, then the price will get driven down quite significantly.
Yeah,
I don't do that.
Pretty far out.
Yeah, I was looking at plane tickets around the time that LGT is being run, like in late September, early October. Yep. And it's possible to fly from Chicago to London for like roughly $500. And then that's not that much compared to flying to Las Vegas.
I flew nonstop on like nice, decent seat flights to and from like Heathrow, and it was $500.
Yep.
Ooh,
like that's not bad.
Ooh,
what?
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell people the sticker shock in Las Vegas is real. I sat down at the first restaurant that first day, and it was like $15 for a beer, like just a regular domestic bottle, and it was like $25 for a sandwich and fries. Yep. It's expensive.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily get like all of that money that you spend as value back in the form of the food that you get. It's sometimes just kind of generically fast foodish kind of stuff.
Yeah, so, the bar at like the first night we got there, Anthony had abandoned me. And so
I abandoned you, sir.
I had dinner. I had dinner there with Quentin. I had dinner there with the Workfire guys, and so I got a burger and fries and 2 beers.
$60
plus tip was 60.
Yep,
that sounds right. So I mean, not even considering some of like the aspects of the actual event, like. There's a serious financial like red flag for the Las Vegas Open, which is that the event is a lot of money. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
So as a separate thing to that, I want to answer Lainey's question here, which is how would you guys rate the event as a competing thing? And this is where the wheels come off a little bit. So purely from my point of view as a competitor that has done a lot of other things across the space, I did not enjoy LVO as a competitive event, frankly, almost at all. I went into the event with fairly low expectations, and even those didn't quite get hit. The like completely random tables scattershot throughout the top half of the event made for some pretty brutal interactions.
Yeah.
And finding that out really late in the cycle and having that be different to the expectation of the event was really rough. I again went into this with much lower stakes than someone like Jack, who was conceivably playing for the year. I just wanted best in faction. Even if I didn't get it, I wasn't going to be that bummed. But as a competitor, I was checked out before we even started, right? Like I was like, I'll go to the event, we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll try and do really well. We'll see how it goes.
You did the stream, the charity thing.
I did the stream, went super well. Like that was great. So that set me up to be in a good place. But once I saw like the table setup situation and a couple of other things that happened that related to that, I was checked out as a competitor. I just couldn't get myself to care because I knew, like, you know, a little bit going into LVO with how random the pairing process is, that not everyone's going to have a fair path. But adding another, so essentially what you're looking at is 5 or so layers of RNG before you as a player's competitor skill matters, which is how was your pairing? What table did you get? Did you win defender role? Did you go first? How did you go from there? I think all of those first 4 were more impactful than how did you execute. If any of those first 4 had a hitch, and especially if the table was wrong, you just lost. There was almost nothing you could do about it. Taking agency like that away from players before they even step into the game is nonsensical for what is ostensibly a competitive event.
And the capstone competitive event to the year.
Exactly.
Which is unfortunate because I did have to care and it did make a lot of difference to me. And I got lucky.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what I communicated to one person was that there are basically 2 pairings that kind of matter, right? You get paired into your opponent and then you get paired into your opponent at a table. And like sometimes you could get a challenging pairing that was doable on like 2 out of the things, like the Sisters board. Well, 3 of the things, like the Sisters, the Chaos, and then like the Ruins table. Like those were 3 kind of denser tables. Like you could get paired into Tau on one of those, maybe make it a game. But if you got paired on Necrons or the Industrial table, and
those
then there
were
was
the most egregious.
And there was one other table that was also bad where it just had
field
those like
base?
Yes, the field base.
Old
And those were the
garbage too.
That was old champs, yeah.
Yeah.
There were also 3 tables where if you got paired as a non-shooting army into Tau, you would just get annihilated. So you could take a negative matchup and make it impossible to win, or you could take a negative matchup and maybe make it a game, very much depending on which terrains that you got. And that's like a situation that's just like untenable for a player because you can never have an expectation or a plan, and it makes some of those games just impossible, like literally impossible to win.
You couldn't have practiced and then built your list and like done the things that 40K needs to do to become more of a like competitively sound thing, because there was no way around this, right? No amount of me and Jack at this point being at the event being like, oh, we drew Tau on the industrial table, unlucky, we lose. In list writing, there are things you can do to kind of work around that. You can't do it at the event. That's not real. But because we couldn't practice nor plan for that, it was just like, all right, let's roll these fucking dice and see how it goes.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's not really much you can do to stop it either. Like, even if you know it's going to be perfectly random going into the event, what table you get. The tables are so different. Like, if I had paired into Tau rounds 1 through 6 on any of the bad tables we mentioned, industrial, field base would have been real touch and go. Necrons, if I had paired into Tau on any of those, I would just die. Like, I'm just dead. Like, there's nothing I can do. Industrial is the most egregious, maybe Necrons.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to hide, period. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. There's ruins. They all have holes in them. Even in the industrial terrain, it's actually asymmetrical between the 2 sides.
Yep.
So the defender roll off matters, but then also whichever ruin you get also has holes in it. Even their biggest one has like little slits, so you can't hide.
They don't all have little slits. They don't. So I looked at several tables. So if you look at the one that Innis was paired on for industrial, it has tiny holes.
And the one that Quentin was paired into Brad as well.
Yeah. But some of them do not. I like picked up a piece of the hanger and I looked at it and I'm like, there are no holes here. How does that work? And the one on their website, I believe, also does not have holes on the hanger.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's
Just
So
also
not only is it
symmetrical.
inconsistent within the actual system, but the actual tables themselves are wildly inconsistent. And I will add, from talking with some of the judges, there were also tables that were present there that they had to add because of the number of players that were not in the pack. And I don't mean the Sisters table that was a brand new one that was a surprise, top tables get to play on the Sisters train. There were like layouts where the judges had to go through the pack and be like, treat this as if it's the industrial table or the old champs, and these are those ruins with these things, because you didn't know what keywords things were supposed to have.
I played on one of those.
As early as round 2, Tyler and I played on one that was like flat, not in the pack, and they were like, I don't know, you guys got this. So
Yeah, I did the same thing round 2. I
And
had
you
to
and
call
Tyler-
Salty John over, and he waved his magic wand and handed a bunch of the ruins obscuring or line of sight blocking, like bottom floor line of sight blocking.
Tyler and I
just weren't in the
traded them.
pack.
We
Which
were
is-
just like, it's not in the pack. All right,
Yep.
I guess these have obscuring. That one's sealed? Question mark. All right, onwards we go.
Yeah,
But
I
you
mean,
two
Brian Jones with his knights had to play round, like, I don't even remember, like round 3. He had to play 2 or 3. He had to play that round on GW terrain, like actual GW terrain.
Yeah,
In
I
one
heard
of
there
the
was
overflow rooms.
there
Which
was
a
an
Knights
overflow.
player who's going to player place terrain does not suddenly want it to be a fixed terrain format that's bad for Knights.
Yeah,
Yep.
super bad for Knights.
Super bad. You
And-
can't move anywhere.
I think part of the
So
feedback is just that like several of these terrain things just need to be retired. Like they aren't good in 9th edition. Like the Necrons table is bad in 9th edition. I played that Custodes player on Necrons,
Yeah,
and
no,
like he didn't kill enough. He didn't kill any boats, and then I picked up over half of his army worth of points value in one turn.
Yep.
Like because I could touch anything and I could go through those ruins at people with Zerks, like just run across the table. You just end somebody's entire experience basically
Yeah.
based on table requirements.
but what I'm one point I want to make is that you can't avoid the randomness.
Right.
Even if you know going into the event this is exactly how it is, you can't prep for it because
Yep.
you're always going to run into the dichotomy of combat army, shooting army.
And then
and if you-
Sisters table, Necron table.
Yeah, Sisters table. I think industrial is like the most egregious shooting table because there's
Sure.
just literally nowhere to hide.
Right.
Like you
Yep.
in your deployment zone, they can just shoot you turn 1. It doesn't matter.
100%.
If you run into a Tau player on industrial, I don't care how much prep you have.
Yeah.
You're done. And if you prep for a Tau player on industrial and you run into a Blood Angel player on Sisters,
You're
you're
dead.
toast. Like
Yeah.
you're just screwed. And honestly, even if you try to tech for both, you're gonna lose.
Well, you'll
Like,
just drag your army to opposite ends and beat neither, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And even if you try to beat Tau on industrial, what does that look like? Like what army beats Tau consistently on industrial? There isn't one. Honestly, if you go second, you probably just die like the rest.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So you can't avoid the randomness because it's so swingy between combat army on combat table and shooting army on shooting table. And people are going to bring a lot of guns. So that means if you just randomly hit shooting army on shooting table, unlucky, you just
Yep.
lose.
Yeah. See ya.
Like you're just done. There's nothing you can do. Like even in list writing, you're kind of screwed because there's no terrain, and if you're just done, it's just random. And
Yep.
as I said, I got lucky. I didn't hit Tau until I hit top 8. If I had, I wouldn't be off. I mean, I might be on this podcast, but the title would be different.
Yes.
You know. And I didn't until I hit top 8. Sisters table, good. All right, I beat the heck out of Tau. Like
Yeah,
there was
that's
nothing he
fine.
could have done there.
Right.
So we have a comment that got brought up, which I believe Anthony brought here, which is from Sam Lemon. So how does that differ from WTC War Master table variety? Or that's not much better either, albeit perhaps a better terrain set.
So the thing with the War Masters is that you're playing on WTC tables, which any WTC table, even the lightest WTC table, is still better than any of the bad FLG tables. There might be issues with fast guns, but the way the rules differ there is enough alone to give you a reasonable chance into those armies, right? You can't touch the outside of a ruin and shoot into it or through it or across the board or any of that crazy nonsense. It slows that aspect of the game down a lot. Also, for what it's worth, I believe the WTC is working on more things for their singles format. So we'll have tables that are tuned specifically for singles. So you don't really even have the dichotomy of like, oh, this was a light board meant for teams, or like, oh, this was a heavier board meant for teams, and so on and so forth.
The other thing about all of this is, we've talked about this to death, about one of the fundamental issues with Frontline Gaming's player place terrain formula is that first drop advantage.
It's huge.
And
That's
that
huge.
doesn't exist on fixed layouts because they basically say, look, you're dealing with, on WTC boards and UKTC boards, a mirror. Doesn't matter which side you take, you have the exact same ruins to hide behind as the other player.
Yeah.
So you lose the defender roll off, big deal. In fact, you're usually then said, no, you're dropping first because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so you remove that randomness. You remove basically two elements now. You don't have to worry as much about the terrain because the terrain is consistent across for the War Masters, there were 8 tables you could go on, and there were varying in medium to light, but even the lightest tables had,
Plenty of
correctly, 8 L's that were 9 inches by 5 inches by 5 inches tall, and all of them were obscuring and all had consistent keywords. Sometimes you would have forest, sometimes you wouldn't. That was really the only bit of inconsistency that you would have, is whether you had difficult ground on your table.
Right.
But aside from that, it meant that if you practiced on those 8 tables,
you were good.
You knew exactly what you would get.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the terrain is super standard, right? Every L looks like every other L pretty much.
You can go and you can buy from Wayland Yutani, who provides the terrain for the WTC. You can buy a box that has everything in it for, I think it's like $200. And that will build every single WTC table. You don't have to worry about going out and buying 12 different sets of FLG terrain and practicing on those 12 different sets.
Let me tell you everything that Sean won on a single roll-off. One roll-off. He got to move the first objective. He got to place the first piece of terrain. And he got to place the first infiltrator to block my death company.
Jesus.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine I go first and I just get all of those advantages going in? Now, luckily, he's a combat army. If he was a shooting army, that might have been it by itself.
Right.
So, yeah. And if you lose the deployment roll off, and because there's an objective in the center, so anyone who doesn't know, here's what happens, right? If, let's say, I'm playing against Anthony, and Anthony is playing Tau because he's lost his goddamn mind. Right? Yeah. If I win the roll off, I'm putting a line of sight blocking piece of terrain on the center objective. I'll heroic it 6 inches with Sangard. He can't contest it. I get 12s for the rest of eternity. Game over.
Immediately, right?
Yeah. Life becomes way harder for Anthony. Like, he can win, gets way harder. On Sister's terrain, forget about that. Maybe he can win thing. But if he wins the first drop, he throws a cargo container on the center, and now I'm, up shit creek because I can't exist on the center objective or I'm losing units. And the difference between winning that roll off and losing that roll off is massive. And yeah, it was hilarious. I mean, Sean was, thank God, a combat army. But if he had won all of those advantages off a single die roll, and he was a shooting army, get out of here.
Just a minor correction. With winning that roll, you should have had the first objective moved.
Defender moves the first, right?
Attacker.
Ah, well.
But
okay.
You guys were tired.
Got 2.
It happens. Yeah. But it's still a big advantage. But yeah, that kind of advantage shouldn't exist.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter in a lot of games, but it can. It totally can. Like when my game I played against Brian, as he points out in the comments here, because I am looking at your comments, guys. I have it open on my phone. It didn't matter in our game because we're both pure melee armies. It's fine. He had maybe a unit of tank busters, and I don't even remember. Yeah, he had 2 units of tank busters.
I mean, you
absolutely lovely gentleman.
Anyway.
What's that?
I said you Forlorn Fury shot him in the face turn 1 anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, he's 2 units of tank busters. That game was it was a dumpster fire, but he was a lovely human being, and I look forward to playing.
Brian's the best. I love Brian dearly.
No, that game started with 1 unit of Death Company shooting to death a battle wagon. All of my bolters clearing out a 10-man squad of commandos, and then he gets out his meganobs out of his battle wagon forwards. because he goes, well, you either want to kill the commandos or the mega knobs. I don't think you can do it. And then I charged him and killed both. That game, yeah. But
tough day in the office.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
So what I'm go ahead, Anthony.
I just wanted to express, like, people are free to make their own decisions. I'm not saying no one should go to a frontline event. But if you're in Europe, it's definitely a lower quality compared to the standard that you're used to. And in the coming season, will probably go to one or none.
Yeah. I think in summary, like, there are two things that, like, are big pain points for FLG events. And one is that there are terrain sets that need to be retired. Basically the 3 terrain sets that we've talked about already, or there need to be adjustments made to those terrain sets to modernize them up to 10th edition and probably for 9th edition and for 10th edition down the road, most likely.
Yep.
The other thing is that player place terrain creates another game before the game starts where you can win or lose the game before even playing the game itself of 40K.
Yeah, it also, as Anthony was saying, it just removes so much agency from the players. Like, as I said, if I hit a rando, just some guy, like in my first couple games, he won his first game, he's playing me on his second, and I had played him, and he's playing Tau, and we're on Industrial, I could legitimately lose that game. Probably will.
And then there was somebody who asked a question about Nova or Adepticon. Adepticon is kind of notorious for terrain issues at this point. I've been told
no one should go to it and play Nova.
I've been told that Adepticon has worked towards improving the terrain again this year. They've told me that in previous years, and the same complaints have cropped up after the event. I always maintain optimism that people tell you the truth when they say that they're going to fix things or are trying to improve them, but that doesn't mean that if you're flying over from Europe and spending lots of money that you should go to Adepticon based on the fact that a TO has promised you that they're improving things until you see that improvement materialize into something.
I basically trust TOs like I trust sports bookies at this point. Like 1 or 2 of them, and that's it.
And then Nova, I've heard, is generally good.
Well, we have the defending Nova champ here.
Yeah, Nova was a great event. No issues with Nova. It was smoothly run. It had amazing, consistent terrain. There were slight differences in terrain, which I think is actually a good thing. Massive differences in terrain is a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think like very small differences in terrain is okay.
Listen, that man Mike Brandt runs the fuck out of an event. I don't care what anyone says. You go to that guy's event, you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, you're gonna have a really well-run event that operates smoothly, has great terrain, has great judges.
And it's probably in a nice hotel.
Probably in a nice venue.
Yeah.
Just like Nova, which is not directly run with GW, but like adjacently run with GW.
Right.
And then,
very close friends, cousins, if you will.
Yeah, they're like stepbrothers.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go to Nova, you go to a GW event, it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, I can say that every GW event that I've gone to, like the Chicago one was amazing, and everybody that I've talked to has said that the open events were run really well. I look forward to trying to go to one this year because I did have a good time at the previous one. It'll probably end up being Tampa because, I don't know, that seems like the only one that's reasonable to go to. But I think standardized terrain at least improves the situation, and player place terrain actively detracts when you have highly variable terrain that you're going to deal with.
Yeah. And I will say, someone's pointing out in the comments that if it wasn't for Reese Frankie, the Frontline Gaming Organization, we wouldn't have competitive 40K where it is now. They did do a lot of work to build the infrastructure that we currently use. I mean, the ITC would probably exist, but in a very different format if not for them.
Formula.
I
said that was Gagno's formula.
There you go. All right. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we can't ask them to continue to improve and to build on things.
I'm not even asking them to do like crazy innovative shit. No. Just keep up with the standards that your peers are showing and stop acting like you're the best when you suck.
I also think like it's important to remember that while people have done great things for the community, that doesn't mean that we have to not provide constructive criticism to them or provide any criticism at all. Like, it's amazing that they did those things, and it's great for the community that they did those things. But just because you did those things does not mean that you're above reproach, and that you do need to consistently improve your events. Like, your player base and the people who pay lots of money to go to your events deserve a product that reflects the amount of money and time that they spend to go to them. And that doesn't say that we dislike volunteers or any of the people that help these events run well. I think Kicker, for example, is an amazing person, and I like him a lot. And every time that I've talked to him, has been great.
Yeah,
Kicker is amazing. Me and Jeremy coordinated bringing him Canadian specific cereal because we think Kicker is amazing. Which shout out to Timbits. They make a birthday cake cereal. It looks amazing. I was sad I didn't ask Jeremy to bring a second box.
I have no problem with any of the people at FLG. I've never had anything other than very pleasant experiences with everyone I've interacted with.
Yeah.
So there's no issue with the people, but there just needs to be a focus on keeping up the standard of their terrain. I think that for whatever reason, maybe they're not that section, the people who are supposed to run the event or design the event or whatever aren't being allocated enough money or don't have enough people running it. It needs to be, I think everybody who works on the event, maybe, I don't know, probably most people who work on that event want it to be one of the highest quality events put out there. No, I don't think anyone shows up and puts in a ton of work, which they did. They clearly put in a lot of work.
Yep.
I don't think anyone does that to show up to try to suck. I don't think that's what they do. No. But I think somewhere in that organization, there needs to be more of an emphasis put on this so that those people can actually do the work that they need to do. Like, as I said, I think Kicker, I think Kicker's great. I've interacted with him multiple times. I think he's awesome. I think he works incredibly hard at this. And I think he lost like 2 weeks of his life to this straight. And then, who knows how much in the past. But clearly, if they're putting that much time into it and the terrain is still to the point where, I woke up at 5 a.m. and I couldn't go back to sleep for 45 minutes because I was worrying about terrain on day 2. Like literally I was stressing out about it. It was not healthy. Then some focus needs to be reshifted to bringing the event up in line. Yeah, it's a business decision not to invest in proper terrain. I think it's the best way to put it. It's not a problem with the people on the ground. It's a problem with people making decisions.
How many times did we hear throughout the weekend that this is the biggest and most successful LVO has ever been? Like just 1 million? I don't know. The idea that
something like that.
This does well and won't reinvest because people will just buy it. I'm just not going to go. It's fine. People are free to make their own decisions. But it seems crazy to me. And I have the same gripe about Adepticon that like every year it's like everyone goes because it's popular and it's popular because people go. But the event quality is just not there. It drives me nuts that I see other TOs like actively update, work using feedback, and like these other ones just don't get to rest on their heels because their event was big in 2017.
I will say that Frontline Gaming has shown that they do listen to some feedback. Not all of it, but they do listen to some feedback. The case in point being the first 4 line of sight blocking. Can you imagine if we had played on Old Champs or Sisters Table or...
yeah, Jeremy, I can imagine it because they were this close to not doing it. Right?
I know. But what I'm just saying is that they have shown that they do listen, that they do respond. And so all I'm saying is I hope that they continue that. And I hope that they take what we have said here and listen to the community as a whole and take that and, improve the event. Because if they do, I see myself going back. If they don't, definitely. I don't see myself going back.
I mean, that's where I'm at as well. Yeah.
There's not no amount of improvements they could make, but there's close to no amount of improvements they can make to get me back to Vegas next year.
I'm not saying Vegas. I mean Frontline Gaming events because I have to travel regardless where they are because they're not going to come to Canada.
Yeah, the way that Innes tweeted publicly about this, the way the volunteers, including you guys, that were treated after you agreed to help set up in exchange for just time on tables was fucking disgusting. So yeah, I'm not going to spend another dime at that company past credit I already have with them.
I'm not as vitriolic about it as Anthony is. But yeah. But I already got mine, right? Like I already won a season. I probably am just not going to, broadly speaking, chase ranking anymore.
Right.
And so what that probably means, I mean, I don't know, maybe in a year I'll feel different. That's how that goes. But I'm not planning on going back.
Right. But we have a lot coming up, right?
Certainly. I mean, like, you know, I support them for what they've done for the community. I've been here through all of it, you know. I've watched as the tournament scene developed from nothing to where it is now. I get that, and I appreciate what they've been doing. But with that being said, I don't have an infinite amount of money or time. I can't, you know, I have to choose which events I go to, and that's how it works. I can't.
That's why I won't go back, right? I'm not going to just not go to events out of spite to FLG. I'm just going to choose to go to events where I feel like my presence was valued. And at the UKTC, I was treated super well. And that's not even like a, like, you know, 40K celebrity thing. That's just like, they treat all the people that go to those events really well. So, that's the end of me being angry about that.
I'm probably going to go to Cherokee, which is coming up. Largely because it's a road trip with the boys, and I'll take something stupid.
The lads.
Yeah, it's just going to be a road trip. It's going to be great. You know, we're all gonna. I'm going to see how many people I can round up. We're going to go. It's going to be a road trip. It's going to be a fun time. And maybe I run like an 8-character Eldar Harlequin list with maybe the Avatar or something. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
If it ain't stupid, it need not apply.
I would just like to dispel this notion real quick. If you think I'm not dragging Jack to at least one UKTC event this year, you're wrong. You can't escape me.
Yeah.
If we dragged Innis to New Jersey, or specifically Anthony did,
you can get me to London. That's not hard. You tried to get me to London on like 2 weeks' notice, Anthony.
Yep.
And I considered it, so that should tell us.
I was so close to getting you to Coventry.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to transition us to the Jack Champster questions thread.
Yes,
and we'll do like,
we should hustle through those.
So we're going to go through like, I don't know, however long we get until everybody's exhausted and we no longer want to take questions. How does that sound?
Wait, hold on. I have to just pin this real quick. Jack, look at that. Take that in.
Is that a flight kind of ticket, or is that an entry fee kind of ticket?
I mean, either of those, whatever mitigates the cost of the event, right?
That's true. That's true. I mean, you don't need to do that, Laney. I will go to events in the UK.
I mean, take it
but
if it's
also
there.
If you're offering, yes, I will take that.
Yeah. Which event, Laney? Tell us while we go through the questions.
All right. The first question is, what was the single toughest game moment at LVO? And this was asked by Will in our Discord.
That's a good question. Did you have like my run-ins right here minute?
Yeah, in the Necron game for sure. I mean, I was looking at the score and I was pretty sure I was winning for like once it got to turn 4 and the board state got real, real bare bones. But if he put his foot on the gas, I was probably going to just get tabled. So yeah, that definitely felt pretty rough. Luckily I had a couple things swing my way. I had like a model who could walk onto an objective, and I had a couple other things. And yeah, I mean, we did the scores like 20 times with a judge there.
Yep.
And I always had in my back pocket, well, if I just go kill this guy, the problem is if I don't kill him, I lose. So, because I have to draw resources away, and everything was like,
right.
Luckily, 2 guys with +1 to hit, reroll hits, assault doctrine, and power fist.
Not getting a save.
Did dome one of his flyers and called it a day.
Yep.
I had to sacrifice a character on the way in, and then 3 Inferno pistols, one of which hit on 2's base, that's Dante, and 2 of which hit on 3's base with full rerolls, did 0 damage. And then the character died on Overwatch because he was going to start so that I could chip down wounds and then definitely have the Death Company finish it. But yeah, that was yeah, you can totally bribe me. Because I'm a sicko. I'm a 40K sicko. I go to events all the time.
I'll go to as many as you can go to, right?
Yes.
If you make it easier for him to go.
If you make it possible for me to go to an event, I'm much more likely to go to it.
I think that's true of like
most of us.
All of us will accept bribes, including Jack.
We had a whole tier about me accepting bribes. I have a leg tattoo about me accepting things I shouldn't.
Wait, about tattoos. Can we pause for a second?
Just
okay.
Keep it moving.
Okay. We're going to keep it moving then.
But yeah, there's the moment where I go second and he flies his planes down, catches like the angle on one of my swords, and like blasts a unit in half, and then the mortals start raining. I was like I was real clenched up. It's unfortunate too, since I was that was when they got repair, and I was originally paired into Steven Box, and I think that game would have been phenomenal.
As it turns out, elves die real fast to
who knows?
angles.
Who knows how it would have gone? But instead, I got mortals rained all over my, all over my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next one.
Our next question's from Tom. It's can anything you've learned or seen at LVO be transferred over to Arcs of Omen?
For our lists?
For angels? I don't think so.
I'm assuming.
Not really. The list seems like it's intact, but it's very not intact anymore. The loss of Fury of the Lost means that the list just does not function the same way as it does before, because you are just completely out of secondary.
Fundamentally changes.
You can take Oaths of Moment, which is a completely different type of list. You can.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not, if you trade with me, I get 15 on this,
right?
Which is what you need.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to survive near the center, which is real tenuous into a lot of matchups.
Yeah, it depends on the terrain format. In GW, you can kind of do it unless you're playing on Dawn of War, in which case you can get the hell out of here. In which case you certainly cannot. Layout 3 does not appreciate center. Yeah, it's rough, buddy. Also, Armor of Contempt going away. We were on the podcast I recorded this morning. Nick tried to sell me on, well, it does. Armor of Contempt doesn't actually matter. Loss doesn't actually matter because everyone's telling him how many AP 1 and 2 weapons they're putting back in lists. So that means that the average AP comes down. So all the high AP weapons aren't there. So Armor of Contempt is functionally back in effect.
That's a take for sure.
My silence was about 10 seconds as I figured out how to respond to that.
That's good.
I mean, he doesn't play Marines, right? He doesn't
feel the pain.
Yeah. He didn't feel my pain
really
into Mark today when I played into his Orcs with my Blood Angels because they wanted to run that match back. Didn't feel my pain as like Choppa's just ripped my Sangard in half.
Oh,
Yeah, it was rough, dude.
brutal.
Yeah.
All right. Next
question. I guess we'll just be Typhus, but I'm going to editorialize it. If you were to turn it into an animal, what animal would you like to be, Jack?
I'm sorry, if we're going to turn everyone into an animal?
No, just
you.
Just me. That's a really good question. Some kind of bird, probably. Flying sounds dope. I don't want to be one of the ones that gets like murdered by a falcon or something.
So you'd be the falcon, is what I'm hearing.
Well, I want... Yeah, probably one of the big birds, one of the ones that, like, if you come after it, just flies away.
You're American.
So a Canadian goose.
Yeah, bald eagle. That's it. My spirit animal is a bald eagle because my heart and soul rings for America.
Oh,
Right.
no.
I was gonna say it's better than a Canadian geese because then he's just an asshole.
I mean, but nobody messes with a Canadian goose. Everybody leaves.
I would
alone.
mess with a Canadian goose. I hate those fucking
You
things.
lose so bad.
I don't want anyone in the chat to start, like, dumping on Nick because he beat all of you. It's fine. He just plays armies where either they all have invulns or if you see him, he's dead. So he doesn't really understand what armor saves are for.
Yeah, he's like, why do you take saves? Actually, that's not true. He doesn't take armor saves. Nick is the 22 of 23 4-up invulns man.
Sam's got a question so what is the Blood Angels tattoo that Anthony will be getting?
So let's set the stage. So Jack beats Mike and is looking a little checked out. And I know that a great way to invigorate some players is by making a silly bet.
I'm going to move the mic away from me so I'm not super loud in a second.
So I was like, listen, you 15-5 Sean, our captain, I'll get a small Blood Angels tattoo.
I didn't 15-5 him, Anthony. Boom, 20-0.
Yeah,
it would have been a 24 to -4.
If it could have been.
If it could have been.
So I'm going to get the chapter symbol, a small tier, and then the wings. And I'll put it next to the Aussie symbol.
I might join you, Anthony, actually.
That'd be sick. We can go together.
Oh, there you
I
go.
don't actually have any tattoos, but I might get that.
If you get one also, and I find out that it's not a gajillion dollars, I'll pay for both.
There you go.
Interesting. We need to talk more about this.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk to the tattoo guy and we'll see what he
Yeah.
says. Because the guy that did my Team Australia tattoo, by the way, is a fucking professional. Like my Team Aussie tattoo is a very well executed, silly tattoo, which is my favorite.
Yeah, maybe next time I'm up in Jersey, which shouldn't be too long.
Yes, sir.
Family's from there.
Yeah.
All right.
The
Next
English
question
is
is:
wants to get this thing. I'm just
You
kidding.
only get tattoos on bets or what?
Someone just asked that in chat.
That's a good question, actually, from Joel. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah,
right.
but I might do that because winning the ITC, winning LVO is a big moment in my life. So I might just immortalize it.
So this is a question for everybody, and this is from Grant. What are you most excited about running in Arcs of Omen? Jack can start though.
That's tough, honestly. I'm not sure. That's tough. GSC is exciting. GSC is very exciting. Shotgun socialism. Let's go.
Yeah.
I definitely listened to Alex McDougall and one other person like espouse GSC as like a thing to play and almost
It's
got
real
converted
problem.
on the spot. It was great.
GSC is awesome. It does make my brain melt in half. I played one game with it this edition, and my God, I mean, I did win it, but I had to. Yeah, they're awesome. I already own one from 8th edition, and I have bought. After talking to Anthony, what a bad influence that dude is. I did buy 40 neophytes on top of like the 30 I already have. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Ravenwing is also super exciting. I have a bunch of that. I have a bunch of it on order. So I might do that. Or I might just put that army away for, developments to come. Because aggressive armies like that are definitely going to be in my wheelhouse in the future. I want to find an aggressive army with good secondaries because that was what I enjoyed out of Blood Angels is being able to pivot between scoring and killing.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something I want to look at.
Why don't we see what the Nerd Stradamus has got then?
Yeah. What do you got, Vanilla? What do you got?
Sorry in advance. This is going to be loud. Headphone users, lower your thing. World Eaters!
Baby!
I'm so fucking excited.
Oh, I might, by the way, see, because I got GW is giving me a 2,000 point army for winning the ITC. And I'm currently up in the air with what I want to do, but I might just be like, hey, can I have a 2,000 point World Leaders army, please?
It's not that many dollars, so it's not worth it, right?
No, probably not. Also, Daddy does want an Astraeus. Dad's getting an Astraeus.
That's right.
So, Astraeus. I want one. I want something dumb that I'm just going to put on, that I'm never going to put on the table. It's just going to go on my shelf. Not on my shelf, on my like mantle forever.
Makes
So
sense.
you're thinking some WE there, Anthony?
Oh yeah, I'm 1,000% playing World Eaters. I'll play World Eaters till I get beat senseless and singles enough with them to stop.
Makes sense.
Because they're not. I don't think they're going to be getting singles, but say la vie.
Who knows?
You never know. You're not focusing on singles anyways. You're focusing on teams, right?
Damn straight.
We'll have to see when the book comes out what the rules look like.
That's right.
Jeremy, how about you? We saw the Storm Speeder briefly pop up, but you might as well just bring it up again. Although
I
the
mean,
cap also matches the color scheme of the army
know.
that you're trying to play.
He's very interested by this. See? he likes Storm Speeders too. Yeah, I'm 100% going back to my Dark Angels. I had a run with them earlier this year where I just had the most fun, and they got so good for Arcs of Omen. So I am just going to terrorize my local population with Storm Speeders and Terminators.
Amazing.
Nathan?
Oh, damn. I have to answer this question. I'm going to play Guard and Harlequins.
Ugh.
Disgusting. Disgusting. Harlequins I get.
Harlequin's understandable.
I'm going to play Guard because I like making tanks go vroom and I like making Anthony very sad.
And you were
like
almost in the military.
I was, but we're not going to tell that story
every guard
today.
player. Every guard player is either in the military or they're John who went to a military college.
We're not telling that story today. If you want to hear that story, it's on a previous episode. I can't remember which one, but you can find it.
Good luck looking.
Are you telling me I need to watch 27? Because I've been on one. Are you telling me I have to watch 27 episodes of Stat Check just to hear this story?
And
he hasn't been on every episode. So yeah,
I will,
maybe like 22.
I will tell you after this because we'll be hanging out for a second and I'll just tell you the story, Jack.
Because we're all buddies.
Exactly. Hence why we were at the front of the stage congratulating Jack and not sitting back in the crowd. Just
Well, I'm going to
staring
make
off into
the
oblivion.
picture of me executing Anthony, by the way. Just speaking of us all being friends,
Yeah.
of me just cutting his head off with a chainsaw. I'm probably going to make that my banner.
That's gonna be his
Have you
banner.
guys seen that?
Yeah, that's
No.
great.
We'll have to see this. We'll share. We can share it later. That'd be great.
We'll share it.
Yeah. I took pictures. They took pictures of me with the chainsaw being like this, and I don't see it. I want it because I kind of want to make that my profile picture, but it's not
Right.
anywhere.
So now we're going to ask another question, and I'm going to skip a bunch of these because some of them are random or stuff that we've already talked about. Go to the earlier part of the episodes if for some reason you skipped all the way to the question section to hear us talk about what Frontline Gaming should change about their events. Going through, no, that's too many. That's too much stuff.
No, but that's actually a good question just to ask in general. I wouldn't say go through each one. The question is, and let me rephrase it actually. Were there any of the best in faction winners where they were not the best player of their faction?
Oh, that's just flame. We should do it the other way where we celebrate people that were.
And I'm
yeah,
going
let's
to.
celebrate.
I'm actually going to celebrate one of them because and this is why I want to ask this question, is my friend and local Zach Como, who we had the most hilarious reaction to Reese absolutely murdering his name because he thought
Oh
it
my
was
god,
like
you didn't even get
Comier.
close. Yeah.
What did he call him?
He called him like Zach Comier or anything. His name is Como. Comeau. Should be really easy to get that right.
I mean, it's got way too many vowels.
It does have a few too many vowels, but Zach is a fantastic player. He's been grinding out games with the 8th edition Guard Codex. He was planning on still bringing Guard when we were looking at no supplement Guard, 8th edition Guard at LVO, because he was committed to winning best in faction. He came into the event 24 points behind Brett, the Catacan Urbanowski, who has also been rocking Guard all year long.
And you're getting on mispronouncing your buddy's name with 17 vowels.
Yeah,
and you call it Catacan?
Yeah, Catacan.
More like Catacant, am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh! All right. Are there any other unsung heroes of the best in faction list?
I want to finish this because this story is actually pretty funny. Brett and Zach paired into each other round 6. And so they recognized that whoever won that game was going to be crowned not just for LVO, but also for the ITC Best in Faction Astra Militarum.
Ooh, spicy.
Zach won that game by 1 point.
Oh, nice job, Zach.
So I think that one right there is that is a deserving Best in Faction right there, because not only did you grind out through that 8th edition Guard Codex through the entire year, play in a bunch of events with it, score reliably high with them, but the two of them went head to head and he came out on top. Yeah. I can't really comment about a lot of the other ones. I know Innis worked his ass off to get the Tyranids one.
Somehow Innis landed with the Tyranids one, but
yeah, I'm trying to figure. I wish that the rankings were live so we could see how close that race ended up being.
It's got to be real narrow, that one.
Yep.
There were a lot of good players vying for it.
Absolutely, unequivocally, TJ. He had the best T-Suns list at the event, demonstrated by the fact that he was the only one of them that didn't lose before the shadow round.
I mean, come on, with the terrain and everything. Although it was just
the best.
It was very funny watching Vic pair into Fennel on stream.
That Northeast power, baby. Can't sleep on it.
Yeah, we used the British to destroy the British. I mean,
that's right.
Vic was such a peach to meet.
Yeah, he's the best.
It was awesome meeting him, but it was at the same time very funny.
Very funny.
I think Nassim won 2 trophies, didn't he? Best Adeptus Astartes and Best Tau, right?
Yep.
I think that goes to show you if you can just slap banners on points and blow people away with firepower, you can win Best in Factions. And Nassim is also a very nice person, although every time I walked up to him and he told me that he'd finished a game in less than 30 minutes, I was a little mad at him at the same time.
Jerk off motion.
I think his record was 18 minutes.
Yeah, that's when I came over to him. He's like, yeah, 18 minutes. I was like, did you just set up terrain and your opponent concede? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
I had against Team Germany, I had a game that lasted 20.
Jesus. That was some shit.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
That was a Tau mirror, though.
It was a Tau mirror. I went first on terrain that if you move, you can see. And I had to redeploy. And it was quarters.
All right. We're not going to talk about rumors, and some of these are questions that we've already talked about.
But I just want to shout out John.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, John and Nids. Also, my boy Kyle McCord winning Best Imperium. Woo, baby! Woo! Hell yeah! There was only 0.1% of the faction events showed up. Like, he's like that guy who's alone on a podium going like, woo. He told me beforehand he was going to make a really big deal out of winning Best in Faction Mixed Imperium. And then, sure enough, everyone's like walking up to the stage, and his name is called. He looks right at me, goes, and just like starts running up, going, "Rah! Woo!"
Yeah, that's awesome.
I just figured it was somebody channeling the Age of Sigmar energy, which was absolutely ludicrous levels.
Oh man,
yeah, the Age of Sigmar team. Yeah,
something.
They're definitely loud.
They were energetic and they were excited.
Yes.
They were. There's a very definite mood difference from the Age of Sigmar folks to the 40K folks, all sitting there quietly waiting for this to go through. And the Age of Sigmar people are cheering and making chants for every other thing that Reese says, which makes the award ceremony take twice as long.
Yeah, they were cheering for every person who got an award, whether it was Age of Sigmar, 40K, or whatever. I can
It was double turned the amount of time the award ceremony took.
Although the Sean Naden 40K Jesus chant was pretty funny, and I laughed real hard.
Yeah,
that was good.
The next question is, I'm going to skip rumor talk and be like, do you look forward to or are you apprehensive of GW getting more involved in running competitive events? Yes or no?
They've done a great job so far. I don't see any reason to be against it yet.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things. I haven't had the opportunity to, but I've heard nothing but good things about the U.S. Opens that they've run. They have, I mean, like or hate their terrain format, it's consistent, it's predictable. You know exactly what you're getting into when you show up at an event.
You can at least plan for it.
Yeah, exactly. You can be like, I'm going to play on layout 1 and layout 3. I practice on layout 1 and layout 3, and I'm good.
And it's layout 2 and 3 now.
Yeah, okay.
But it's shown that shooting armies and combat armies can both do well on that terrain. Shooting armies are at a bit of a disadvantage. Heavier like vehicles, that sort of thing, are at a bit of a disadvantage, and I cry a single tear every day for them. I think it's fine.
Do feel a little bit for night players.
Yeah, night players, as I said, Brian Jones getting ambushed with a GW table, coming up behind him with a steel chair.
As someone that's been on the receiving end of a steel chair meme, it's not great.
Yeah, but he won that game, so like good for him. No, if you haven't been to a GW event, I would go. If
they are fun.
Yeah.
If you have something that prevents you from traveling to a UKTC event and you want to stay in the US, or you just want to stay in the US because you're a merc, a first person, definitely do a GW event.
God, Anthony is such a Euro simp. It's incredible.
The UKTC events were really good. I don't know what else to say.
And you watch them without subs. I understand.
Yeah, or whatever.
All right, so I'm gonna
watch the subs. I don't really know.
That's a weeb joke. It's way out of my ballpark, champ.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna skip Alex Taus's question because it goes back to traveling to events, or just because I want to skip him because his name has tangent.exe and has some stuff in it I didn't know you could type in a name, and go with Tom Pani's question instead of, are there any Dark Horse factions going into ARCs?
GSC for sure.
Yeah, I think GSC is one of the top 3 armies in the game, and I just still don't see enough people talking about it.
They take a bit of a hit in that the best couple of armies all have either infiltrators or other access to 12-inch no deep strikey, which does hurt. Anthony can tell me it doesn't matter all he wants. It hurts.
It's not nothing. I just think that those matchups in general are good enough that it's okay.
What's the range on a shotgun again in a GSC army?
12 inches.
Yeah, you wouldn't use shotguns in that scenario. Like you're not killing armies with infiltrators with your shotguns anyway.
Why not? Armor of Contempt, they're not looking to armor save stack anymore.
I mean, even then they couldn't because it was just 3-up cover. You didn't give a shit.
True. Take their cover away.
Yeah.
Easy clap.
Okay, a non-GSC choice though, just for everybody. Just because I'm gonna force you all to nerd Stradamus together to pick
Harlequins.
Harlequins are still very good. They're still very good.
Choice, if they were already good.
I think people think Harlequins are bad now.
That's fair.
Quentin told me, because he was playing Harlequins, Quentin told me he had many of his opponents asking him if he was still playing Harlequins and Arcs.
Yeah.
I think that it's funny because those are both the two factions that like only 5 people play super well at any given moment.
They keep doing well, right?
Well, that's also why they're dark horses. Iron Hands
Yeah.
isn't a dark horse because anyone can do the math on their calculator and go 2 + 2 = you're goddamn dead.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I will just, I guess I'm just going to ask Taus's question because I guess why not, is when will Jack or any of us come to an Australia or New Zealand event? And my answer to this question before everybody else goes is that when plane tickets do not cost me $2,000 to fly to your event, I will go to your event.
Yeah, that's about where we're at.
It is the large monies.
Or if I get invited to a conference, I'll go to an event because then at least the airfare portion of it is covered by somebody like an academic institution. And if somebody will lend me an army, I'll play in an event if it's at the same time.
There you go.
What, you mean you wouldn't just spend the extra $60 for a checked bag for the army?
I don't
Army.
I don't
That's a good
trust
point.
checking an army on an international flight that's like 20 hours long is so damn.
I realize they were only me saying that given that my bag got lost this weekend.
Yeah.
Yes. I'd love to get my army lost over the Pacific Ocean somewhere. Like, can you imagine transporting like Harlequins as a checked item?
You'd get
you would
dust.
have
Good point.
You'd have no Harlequins left.
Yeah, that's asking for failure.
And then a lot of people asked in chat about the volunteer thing. If you go to Twitter and go to Innis's account, you can get a recounting of the volunteer thing at LVO. I don't want to.
Basically, it was for anyone who doesn't want to go there. It was just a poorly handled incident where volunteers were not treated well, and they have received the feedback and are looking to improve on how they handle volunteers.
Yep,
we will see if that happens.
Yeah, I was not there.
Not actively insulting them would be a good start.
Yeah. And then I'm going to do plugs. And then first, though, Jack gets to do his plugs again because he can plug a Ruski as a guest-dooski on our show.
So Stat Check is coming dangerously close to 30 episodes. And you know what that means. That means it's getting old. It's getting tired. It's running out of new ideas. It's honestly just running on empty at this point. I've injected a breath of fresh air, but that can only last so long. So before that happens, everybody, I need
get Ennis back.
What I need you to do is I need you to go to Patreon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I believe it's in the settings. I'm not sure, but you can check your check your subscriptions. Anyway, I'm not saying you have infinite money, but if you do, then you can subscribe to both. But if you don't, Stat Check's kind of done. It's used its life up. And you can go to Art of War instead. Use your money there.
We need to get you to start doing these in a pirate hat. I know you have one because I got it for you.
You did not get me a pirate hat.
I gave it to you.
You got me a pirate meme.
Oh, no, I bought a pirate hat to WC.
No, you talked about it. You talked about it. You're all talk. No, I don't know.
Am I all talk? Is that the vibe you get
You're
from
all, what is it, all hat, no cattle or something? I don't know. I'm not Team Texas. I wouldn't know.
Oh.
Anyway,
I mean, Anthony has at least 2 tattoos.
If you like Stat Check, you might like Art of War because you like 40K. Art of War actually, as you can see, wins events. So we don't just talk shit, you know. So if you want to come over there and find out how to win events, we've got it over there. It's a very simple 2-step plan. Listen to Anthony and then do what he says.
That's right.
On our end, although I am ancient apparently because I'm over 30 years old and very tired because of it. Thank you everybody for watching tonight. If you enjoyed what you saw and or heard, you can go to patreon.com/statcheck and send us some money if you want, and you can join our Discord and you can harangue us with questions, which we read out of the Discord today, and you can talk to Jack or me or Nerdstradamus or Jeremy or Cliff, all sorts of random people and great players from around the world. You can also arrange games with them, which is quite nice. I think TTS is one of those great tools and you can access it a lot. Otherwise, drop us a like or a subscription on YouTube. We're almost at 1,000, which is like one of those milestones where you start to open up additional options in YouTube. So youtube.com/CE/StatCheck. Otherwise, this has been Nathan and Anthony and Jeremy and Jack. Thank you for watching episode 29. Bye-bye.